Well, we're back with timeout after an extremely long timeout. My name is Michael Kwambo, hosting the show alongside Richard Onjohi. Richie, it's great to catch up after a long time, after a prolonged timeout. But hey, we're back.
Yeah, it's been a while, yes, indeed, and I think we took a break from all of this, and even during that period, there are quite a number of activities that happened. But hey, we are back here. Let's hit the road running.
Indeed, and talking about the road running, a lot has happened in the week, but of course, we've narrowed it down to items that are of key interest. We start with the sad news of the death of Agnes Jebet Tirop. She was discovered dead in her house last afternoon on Wednesday, that is the 13th of October. Stab wounds to her abdomen. Of course, her husband is the prime suspect. Maybe just your take on it, Shruti.
I think it's a sad day for Kenyan sport and more so Kenyan athletics because this was a young talent and she had just come from the Olympics in Tokyo. And I think she was scheduled for a 10K road race where she was attempting to get back the world record, which she broke, I think, sometime last year. As I say, it's tragic when you have to lose a sports person in such a manner. It's not something that I want to put a finger on anyone, but I think it's as I say, it's tragic to have to lose such young talent.
Indeed, it is. And, as we talk about the death of Agnes Tirop, it also brings into question the well being of athletes, not only in the sporting discipline of athletics, but athletes in general. You see many of them going through a lot in their personal lives just to deliver, but yet they are struggling. And I did see a statement put out today from Jackson Tuwei, retired general, who is the president of Athletics Kenya, obviously urging athletes to talk about the things that are bedeviling them away from the sporting realm. And what do you take of that statement from General Tuwei?
I think it's Athletics Kenya trying to just bring the spotlight on the mental health or mental issues that sports personalities and athletes, sorry, are going through. And I think that's something that has been brought to the forefront. If you remember what happened in Tokyo, where Naomi Osaka had to, quit her games, as well as Simona Biles in the gymnastics. They decided not to participate in the key events or key sports because they decided that for them it's important, first of all, they take care of their mental status instead of just going out there and representing their countries. It's the same scenario here. I think a lot of athletes or sports people have gone through a lot of mental issues in the last 18 or 20 months because of the pandemic, among other issues, loss of income, loss of livelihood, loss of training partners. And it would be a similar thing that would have happened to Tirop, given that she didn't win anything at the Tokyo Olympics, and maybe the expectations from the family or even the husband was something bigger than that. But as I said, I don't want to start making judgments right now. But I think it's something that needs to be highlighted, and before we close the year, then ideally, then each of the sports federation or sports organization can look into that.
Indeed, and as we talk about the death of Agnes Tirop, emerging news this evening is that another Kenyan athlete, Edith Mudhoni, has been murdered by her boyfriend at Kianjege village in Kerugoya, Kirinyaga. Just looking at the wires, and they're saying that the DCI arrested her boyfriend on Tuesday night after he savagely attacked her, inflicting a deep cut on the back of her head. It is quite a dark period for athletes in particular. Remember, just last week, Hosea Macharayang, multiple representative for Kenya in World Cross Country Championships, was found dead, an alleged case of suicide. You did mention something about mental health of athletes. And do you think this is something that has been neglected by sporting federations and by the sporting fraternity in general?
It's been an underlying issue, I think, and as I said, in the last 20 months, it has come to the spotlight more so because of the pandemic and the isolation that most people are under forced to undertake, and also just because you didn't have like the regular training periods and the normal workshops or normal events. And again, given that you're a sports person, most sports activities were either under ban or under very limited visibility or activity. So that contributed to a large extent. And then again, even upon resumption, a lot of sports federations have not had sort of like a session with most of these athletes or these sports people, sort of to bring them back into the fold and telling them that this is something that is it's unprecedented. It's something that can be resolved with just continuous talking or conversations within themselves or within with psychologists or professional people in that space. I think the unfortunate thing is that we have forced them to go into competition given their mental states, and then when they don't perform very well, then they come back and have to face their families, who then like we've just seen two victims of murder, and that's not something that we want to look out to going to the end of the year.
Indeed, and maybe just to give you a heads up, on the 28th of this month, that's in 14 days from now, on the 28th of on the 28th of October, the Kenya International Sports Film Festival 2021 edition returns. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that I'll be moderating a session on sport and mental health. And among the panelists on that session will be Wilfred Bungei. We all know his struggles, and I definitely will be looking to get a lot more insights. And if you can tune in, obviously we'll be sharing the link much closer to the event. And moving to happier news in athletics, we saw Kenyans dominate the marathons in the US this past weekend. There was a victory for Ruth Chepngetich in the Chicago Marathon on Sunday. And then on Monday, we did see a double victory for Kenya in the Boston Marathon. Benson Kipruto, who was 10th in 2019, who has also won the Prague and is it Prague? Actually, it's Prague, not Prague. Yeah. English is not our preferred language. And the Athens Marathon, winning in Boston, as well as Diana Kipchoge, her first ever win. And Richie, I think what was a lot more exciting about the women's result was, yes, Kipchoge won, but there was a Kenyan clean sweep, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the second placed athlete in that women's race was 41-year-old Edna Kiplagat. Maybe just your take on the weekend for Kenya. A glance at Chicago and then, Boston.
No, I think it's been a very successful run or resumption of the marathon, major marathons across Europe and the Americas. And kudos to the team or the individuals who made the Kenyan flag fly higher. I think the women have really outdone themselves, and we saw what happened in Boston. We were watching this with my kids, and they kept asking me, "We have won, and the top four from the country," and just that side of that excitement and that sight of seeing people that you can identify with, or you can say that these are my fellow countrymen. That's something that we should be proud of. Remember, this was the 125th edition. I think my memory of the Boston Marathon is one Samuel Wanjiru back in the day when they had a sort of tag and push with an Ethiopian athlete. That clip, I'm always going back to that and referencing to that. So for me, it was a proud moment for Benson to bring it home, as well as Diana Kipchoge.
Okay, so we go from proud moments to what can I say? Annoying, probably deflating moments. Football, Harambee Stars, they bowed out of the World Cup 2022 qualifiers unceremoniously. 2 losses, that 5-0 defeat in Morocco to Mali, and then the 1-0 defeat in Nairobi. The big question is, who is to blame? Is it the manager, Engin Firat, or is it President Nick Mwendo?
I think first of all, I think we are very optimistic with our football, especially at the national level. And I remember when Engineer Olunga was being interviewed, and he's giving us very optimistic expectations. But we know what the West Africans can do, and especially when they're in their home courts or home advantage. And that is what we got as a first drubbing, the 5-0. That was not unexpected. I think we should have done something when we got back home. I think a goal or two just to save our face. But yeah, again, I think this I squarely put it on the FKF president, because we had a good run with the former team manager, Ghost Mulay. In as much as he's a local, he may not have soaked in as many goals, and I think he has a good run going into the Africa Cup of Nations. I think twice. He's qualified and also played within the tournament. I think this is something that he could have. Maybe would not have won both matches, but at least would have either scored, conceded less goals, as well as maybe win or draw locally. So I think this squarely is on the president, because putting together a team and bringing in a new foreign coach who credentials we question a lot. I think that has been in the mainstream media for the last couple of weeks. Yeah, so that's squarely on the president.
And then his comments on a local TV show earlier this week. I know people have misconstrued them, but I think the general gist of those comments is that there's no talent in Kenya. And when you go ahead to say that, even if you bring the likes of Mikel Arteta or Jose Mourinho, Kenya still will not perform. Isn't that not disparaging? Because when you look back in years gone by, and I'll give you the reference from 1996 when Vojo masterminded that demolition of Algeria using local-based players. Is it to say that there is no talent in Kenya, or is that a disparaging remark that just smacks of disrespect and condescension to the entire Kenyan football fraternity?
Yeah, I think again, it's the president trying to look for outside or external things to blame. Because if you look at the talent that we have, the likes of the captain, engineer Ulunga himself, a couple of other players in there, I think Were or right now I don't have all that all the guys in the team roster, but I think we have what it takes, not so much to win or qualify for the World Cup, but at least to hold their own within the continental space. And this is why I'm saying, this was purely on the technical team, because they would have had combinations, especially when we came back home, because it was just about 5 or 7 days after the first match. So we would have seen what the mistakes were. We maybe did because we conceded less, but maybe Mali had already known they were going to, there was no way we were going to score 5 goals against them. So this is for the president to say, this is my monkey, let me carry it, not look for external issues or start saying that your players cannot do that. Then quit your job then and let someone else who's more capable to push the federation and more so the national team to bigger and better things.
Yeah, and it looks like this conversation, which we planned for about 25 minutes, will probably extend by 10 minutes, because there's two things I want to slip in. First, Victor Wanyama announcing his retirement from international football. And then yesterday, his elder brother, McDonald, hitting out at Nick Mwenda, first of all, for his comments and also calling for him to resign. What did you take of those two moments in Kenyan football?
I think it's been a fairly good run for Wanyama. I wish he had quit in more ceremonious, or at least from participating in a major tournament or major event. It's you see, that's how we treat our stars locally. We just let them slip through the cracks, and in such unceremonious swan songs. For McDonald, I think he's trying to make a voice, or get his voice back, and sort of put the administrators of the Kenyan game to order. I wish he can have a more structured conversation and maybe continuous conversation. We don't know, maybe he might run for office. I think he tried his political stint some time back. I think he's gunning into getting into football administration, hence maybe his remarks right now. But I think it's also important that he does put the president on the spot, because this is purely, and maybe that's my opinion, this is purely on Nick Mwendwa.
Yeah, true, it is. And I'd probably just like to add that he's been an absolute dictator in the way he's run the organization. You can take that to the bank, but any dissenting views are met with the harshest of you know, punitive effects. Anyway, enough of the Harambe Stars. Let's talk about the two Kenyan representatives in continental action. Gor Mahia are playing against Sudan's Al Ahly Meroe. First leg is in Suez because the Sudanese obviously don't have a stadium that is within the CAF requirements, especially in these COVID-19 days. Gor are doing things differently this time around. We haven't had the logistical troubles, we haven't had the kitting issues. They're actually in Egypt way before the match. And is that the sign of organization, or is it the calm before the storm?
And maybe just to tie it in with the Harambee Stars issues, you see, if a club can be able to organize itself to get itself ready for club championships across the continent, that's local talent right there that we can utilize, or we can, take advantage of. And that's where God now we expect them to be, because, they have conquered the local league. They have conquered part of the regional league, CECAFA club championships. Let them gun for bigger things in CAF Confederations Cup. And I think for me, it might be a draw. It's a good way that they prepare themselves. They don't have any logistical issues. They've taken time to acclimatize with the location. So all the best to them, and I think that's a good thing going. Hopefully, we'll not have any challenges as they go, or if they progress in the next stages of the Confederations Cup.
Yeah, maybe just to interject also. Remember, this is Gore, and much as they've gotten quite organized, I saw it somewhere on the internet today that FIFA want to take action against Gore and FKF for signing players. How did this happen? And yet they were serving a transfer ban. They've been slapped with another transfer ban. They only have 17 registered players. That's why I was asking: is this the calm before the storm?
I think this is FIFA trying to sneak a quick one on and especially on our Kenyan football club football, because I think if then there was a ban that had been imposed, and the club knew that what was going on. It's going to be a tough one if they qualify or they move to the next stages. Ideally, then they are to serve the ban. Then we should just forget about going for the qualifications, and just save lick our wounds, and stay home and play in the local league.
Yeah, and then Tusker. They did well to advance past star-studded Djibouti side Artasola in the first round. And then they meet Zamalek in the second round. They did start their KPL campaign very well. They lost to depleted AFC Leopard side by 1-0. They attributed that to injuries. They're facing Zamalek, and is it a tall order for the Kenyan champions?
Um, I, I don't envy Robert Matano right now. It's not an interesting way to start your Champions League, CAF Champions League, with a team like Zamalek, which has such heritage in these championships. I think they've traditionally, kicked us, whether it's Go or whether it's Kenya Breweries and now Tusker FC. I think this has always been like, what do you call it? The team that we never able to beat. And I think even when they come here, they sort of give us a run for our money. So I think it's going to be a tall order, given also because they are quite a bit of an injury plagued team. Hopefully they get maybe 2-1 or 2-0, then maybe they can sneak something in. Or if they're able to get an away goal, 2-1 or 3-1, something might happen when they come back home.
Yeah, well, just for your information, the first leg is in Nairobi. That is Tusker versus Zamalek. Zamalek have been in the country since Tuesday, so talk about preparing for battle.
Yeah. I think, as I said, for me, it's a tall order from where I sit. I think Zamalek has always been our breaking point when it comes to club championships, and somehow we always get fixed to them either at a very initial or the initial stages. But then again, this is, if you're going to play at the Champions League level, then you have to be the best of the best.
Sorry, there was a bit of a technical issue there. Um, but I'm back.
I wondered what happened. I was left talking to myself.
No, no, no. I was still paying attention. It's just the camera that I had stopped for a minute. And, it's great to hear those insights about Tusker and Gor Mahia. Now let's go to the women's national football team, Harambee Stars. They face South Sudan in the first of the qualifying matches for the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Squad has been named. Of course, we have seen the return of prolific striker Nedi Atieno. She's going to partner with Gentrix Shikangwa. Your take on that squad selection? Because I do understand, yes, it is South Sudan. It is a straightforward fixture, but still, your take on the squad selection.
I think this is where the Starlets need to take advantage of the home advantage and also just having to play the two legs in Nairobi. I think they have a good squad going into this cup or into these championships or qualifiers. Just take advantage of the home court advantage and just win the games. 2-1, 1-0, and sail to the next round. And we are good to go for the Africa Cup of Nations for the women.
Yeah, for me, I feel it's always good to start with your strongest side. It is great that they've named quite a strong squad, but there's one player who's missing, and I think for me, she's Kenya's biggest export out there. Ese Akida. She's now playing for the Greek champions of PAOK. She's previously played for Besiktas before COVID-19. She continues to be left out of the squad, and makes you wonder why are they subjecting her to this international wilderness? Is it because of her outspoken views against some of the decisions that the organization makes, or is it that they feel she is not a part of their plans in the long term?
I really hope it's not the administrators putting their hands where they're not supposed to be, because if you have a star like that playing a professional league in Greek or in Turkey, in Greece, sorry, or Turkey, these are players that should be integrated into the team because they bring much of the international exposure, and also having such a name facing a team, a foreign team. You always have that is always like your trump card because you have a professional player within your ranks. It's unfortunate that she's not part of this squad. Hopefully, maybe they can include her in the second game. But again, as you say, being outspoken doesn't mean that you're not committed to the team. It's a bit tragic, and it's unfortunate that we should be having such scenarios at this point where we need all the firepower going into such games.
Indeed, and we've talked about football. Let's get into rugby. Safari Sevens is back in another 16 days. Of course, I'm the insider, but it is good to get the outside perspective on your thoughts around the game and the Sevens tournament coming back.
I think this is an interesting one. First of all, the change of location from the traditional Ngong Road venues back to near National Stadium. I think we're testing a bit of the hosting capacity, but then the unfortunate thing is that we are hosting it to empty stadia or stadiums, because then we won't have any fans. So that's a bit of a misnomer there from the government, because ideally when we would have a limited number of fans coming into the game. The Sevens has always been, or the Safari Sevens for that matter, it's always been a fans experience. It's something that becomes a talking point for a whole week, before, during, and after. And also, given what has happened in this season for the Kenyan men's Sevens team, they're currently, or they ranked third in the 2021 standings. Well, without the top seeds, but I think that was still a good showing from the men's team. And if they are able to get that motivation hosting the Sevens here as a curtain raiser for the 2022 season, then, Shujai all the way, they will have a good run going into the 2022 season.
Indeed, for me, my take is that from a personal point of view, I feel that it's a high time we allowed fans back into sporting events. Advertising the Safari Sevens without fans is quite difficult because, much as you make it clear, even on the signage, the question still comes about. I do know that sponsors are definitely going to ask, what is this that you want us to sponsor and yet there's no funds? And then also, let's not be blind to the fact that other activities are taking place. Clubs have opened up. Public transport is now operating at full capacity. Let's not even go to the political rallies where we see droves upon droves turning up to see all these warmongers giving us false promises ahead of that ritual that we do every 4 years, the elections. So why not bring it to sport? Because a lot of people are missing out on that atmosphere, on that interaction. Teams are missing out on gate collection as well, you know. And I feel for me, yes, it's good that the event is back. It's good that we're trying to show that we're resilient people. But I think now it's no longer time to be blind to the fact that we need fans in the stadium. And earlier on, you had mentioned Shuja and their third place finish in the 2021 World Seven Series, which is on a bridged version. In my opinion, still a good outing from them. There's been a lot of transition in the team. Yes, we do understand the fact that the likes of Fiji, New Zealand, Australia were not in the fold, but I always believe in playing whatever is ahead of you, and that's exactly what they did. And I believe the young men will get the confidence to march on forward and to be unnerved by whoever it is that they are facing. Because much as those maybe the top seeds, um, by virtue of pedigree, I believe these players have been able to break out and actually get a feel, and they'll probably not be phased by the opponents that they're going to face in the future.
Indeed. And maybe a question to you: Who would be the likely top seeds coming into the Safari Sevens? Who are the teams who we've invited, or do we have any interesting teams coming for the tournament?
Well, we'll actually get a direction on Saturday because invites have been sent out to the likes of Spain, to the likes of Uganda, Zimbabwe. Remember, we're living in difficult and interesting times because of COVID, so it really changes a lot of dynamics. A lot of teams that would have desired to come in have not come in, but you know, we're looking at a select squad from South Africa as well. Should they show up, then they definitely will be a team worth looking out for because of the talent. Then of course the Kenyan teams and Zimbabwe. So I mean, let's just look at that. But we will get a clearer picture on Saturday when more information is available.
Perfect. I think it's an interesting one because then it sort of puts the spotlight on the government, because we had the Safari Rally in June, and a lot of, as you're saying, rumor mongers or warmongers were saying that that was going to be a spike of monumental
Proportions.
proportions, but we never
Yeah.
saw anything like that. Well, maybe there are a few cases here and there, but then the fans enjoyed themselves. I remember I was part of those that went down to Naivasha for that weekend. And, provided that the fans are given all the necessary information and the protocols, and I mean, for a stadium setting like Nyao Stadium, you can easily do that because you just limit the number of people sitting and arrange the seating and also the entrance and everything. It's a bit tragic that the government still has to impose fan bans on such an important event or milestone for the rugby fraternity.
Indeed, and away from rugby, probably it's the time to go into other sports news. We saw the World Cup 2022 qualification matches taking place. Germany already qualifying from Europe. Do you think the team has regrouped after a dismal Euro 2022?
I think that was a very quick flip that they did there. I think it's an interesting one because they have the talent, and that was the tragic thing about the Euro 22. They had very good players within the team, both a mix of both old and new incoming players. But then I think in the Euros, then they were just not the chemistry had sort of vanished, and I think Joachim Low was way past his tenure. And Hans Flick has just come in and did his magic. I think he's won 5 games and drawn one, or I think lost one. And as we say, they're the first ones to qualify for the World Cup. That gives them very good preparations going into the World Cup, because then we have about, I think it will be played towards the last quarter of the year, so they'll have just about over a year to get their act together. will consider the respective European leagues and the adjusted 2020, 21, and 2022 calendars. Let's hope they'll not have too many injuries going into the tournament, but then they'll be in a pole position to be among the favorites to win the tournament.
Great. And then Sunday morning, we saw that spectacle of boxing, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. And that's the kind of boxing I like. I mean, there's all the hype, there's all the action in the ring as well. Each, 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 each fighter actually fell to the floor. I remember, was it in the fourth round when Wilder knocked down Fury? But Fury showing up and delivering that devastating knockout blow in the eighth round. Of course, Fury won, but for you, what was your take of that fight?
I think I'm not usually a big Fury fan, but on this one, I backed him up because Wilder had such wild comments coming into the fight, saying that he'll knock Fury within the first round, all this braggadocio business. But then when push came to shove in the ring, really they put in value for money for us, the fans, because as you said, initially we thought it was going to be a Wilder fight. Then midway through the fight, it flipped, and even the judges, when they were scoring, you could see how they changed and all that. Now changed into Tyson Fury, and he gave us value for our money. Knocking Wilder out in the eighth round. I wish it had gone maybe to the 10th round. I was jumping up and down wherever I was, but then it is what it is.
Yeah, well, it was a good display. Like you, I have always backed Wilder, but Fury actually let his punches do the talking. I think there's a bit of, for me, a moment of disgrace from Deontay Wilder. This is as reported by Fury verbatim when he knocked him down in the eighth round, and Fury insistent, saying that he doesn't respect him. Man, you've been beaten, you've been knocked down, and I mean it's senseless pride, and I think for me that is what separates Fury from Wilder, and also justifies why Wilder will never reach to those steady heights. What's next for Fury? I mean, there's a fight on the horizon against Anthony Joshua if it does happen. We all thought that Anthony Joshua was going to be that new breath of fresh air, but in my opinion, it's beginning to look like Fury because of a lot of reasons. He's performing in the ring. He also has that charisma, that personality. My take is that boxing became boring once Lennox Lewis and the Klitschko twins took over and they oversaw its decline. But I think Fury is bringing back that life and that energy as well.
And I think Fury combines two things. He puts his mouth where his punches are, because then he's able to prove himself in the ring. And this, remember, like this Tyson Wilder fight. This was the third time they were meeting, and Tyson told him that this time you'll have it rough. You have seen a bit of me when I'm a bit on the lower side, and this one he gave us the promise that he will deliver a great fight. As you're saying, we are hoping that the Tyson Fury Joshua fight will happen, maybe the later parts of 2022. But I wish Joshua could really step up into the plate, or onto the plate, sorry, and I think toughen up a bit, because I think he has what it takes to become a heavyweight champion of the world. It's only that side of him that sort of brings out the rough, or the toughness. That's something they need to work within the camp, because the last fight that he had, and losing in such a way, you could see it really caught him off guard. And in as much as he accepted the defeat, then you always come back and say, can I fight this guy? Can you have a rematch as you prepare yourself for the bigger fight?
Definitely, as you prepare yourself for the bigger fight. It's been a great 34 minutes of doing the timeout show after a long timeout, and let's look for some consistency as we drive forward. It has been great catching up. My name is Michael Kwambo. I have been your co-host for the timeout, and this is
Richard Wanjohi. Thank you, and we will hope, as you're saying, to be more consistent. Hopefully, we'll have a bi-weekly show going forward, and definitely give us a shout, give us feedback on our respective social media pages on Instagram, on Facebook, as well as Twitter. We are back from our timeout, and it's kudos from us.